Hey everyone, Jim T. Graham with RC Groups. And in another interview with somebody in the hobby, we are talking with Alejandro Alcantara and where are you from, Alejandro?
I'm originally from Venezuela, but I've been living in the US for about 22 years.
Awesome. And where are you at in the US?
Western Florida.
Western Florida. So it's
Yep.
nice. No wonder you're having a storm out there. I'm
Oh
sure it
yeah.
storms every day at 4 o'clock or whatever
Yeah,
time it is.
every day, pretty much between 3 and 4 o'clock. That's when it rains, summertime.
So there's something that makes Alejandro different, and that is, I'm fairly certain this is true. He's the first YouTube channel to ever advertise on rcgroups.com. And when you said, "Hey, I want to try this," I'm like, "This is a great idea, and I'm really excited to see what we can do." So if you're on RC Groups, you will see banners with his videos and captions and his creations, and then sometimes his crashes.
Yep, absolutely. That's all part of it.
Right. And so you might ask yourself, he's an RC pilot, but what is there to talk about? And the interesting part is Alejandro 3D prints his planes, and we do have a 3D print section on RC Groups. And if anyone out there, and I know a lot of 3D pilots are 3D printers because you can make so many cool different things for existing RC planes. So let's start out with this. How did you get into RC?
I mean, since a kid, it's everything. I used to have a box of just RC stuff, so many cars and everything, but I never had planes. I always had that interest, and it wasn't until I had time during the pandemic that I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna start getting into it." I always used to go to Market Park, and I used to watch them all the time. I love all the remotes, and everything was just so cool. But then after like the pandemic started, and I was started getting into it, and since I had more free time. I started getting into it, and as soon as I got the first plane that I had, which was a Aero Scout, it was a nice trainer
Heck yeah.
plane,
I vote
and
I vote that as a first plane for anyone
oh
out
yeah,
there that
it's for anyone out there that is the best plane to start with, and it is definitely I recommend it 100%. And from there on, it just doesn't stop, man. I started getting every type of plane that I could see, started enjoying, and then I started looking like, hey, what do I actually enjoy doing? And that's when I started getting into the like I started finding that hey, you can even make your own planes. So I started with foam planes. I started building them out of foam. And then with this whole craze of the 3D printing, then I got into 3D printing, and then I'm even designing my own planes and printing them and doing giant scales now.
So what came first, 3D printing or RC?
For me, the 3D printing came first, but it was more like I got the 3D printer, but it was just there. I would barely even use it
Okay.
until then I started doing the RC, and then that's when I started. It's like, hey, I have this here. I'm gonna start using the machine. Let's start doing it. And that's when literally your mind just blows because you can just literally do anything that you want and you can start building. It doesn't have to be just playing. I've done cars, I've done everything like figurines. I've been even thinking of building a life-size Wally from Disney and actually making it RC so I can drive it around everywhere.
Oh, that's cool. And let me
So,
tell you the coolest thing I've 3D printed.
mhm.
I've got some stuff in the room I could go yank off the wall, but I have a 76 Eldorado Cadillac convertible. And
Nice.
I have, as you can see over my head, I have actual
Mhm.
horns off a
Horns.
bull. But I
Nice.
put things on cars and then come out and they weren't there anymore. And I would really
Yeah.
be upset if somebody yanked the horns off the front of my Cadillac. So I thought, I wonder if I could 3D print bull horns and how long can I make them? And I 3D printed a pretty good size set of bull horns. And then I created a leather part in the middle that makes them look
Mhm.
even bigger. And if somebody were to
Nice.
rip it off the car, A, it wouldn't mess the car up. And B, I wouldn't be upset because
You
there's
just
no,
print it. Yeah, you print
yeah.
it again, and you're good to go.
And with
Yeah.
that said, one of the things about 3D printing, especially let's say a giant scale airplane, a big print can take longer than a day. So,
Yep.
are you going to go to sleep and are you going to go out to dinner and leave your printer rolling? I had cameras pointed at mine, so if I did go to the movie, I could look at the phone. Now, I guess I did have a remote activated on off switch, so I could turn it off if something bad was happening. What is your favorite printer and how do you handle like long prints?
So The first printer that I had was Box Lab. It's a Chinese brand. It's pretty much a Ender 3. It's a Creality Ender 3 pretty much. Is a copycat. That was the first printer I had, and it was a 250 millimeter volume. So it's pretty much this size. And you can print
Right.
up to here.
Right.
And then from there on, I actually the giant RC scale plane that I have, I printed with that one.
Wow.
And it's pretty interesting that out of this tiny little volume that you would think, hey, you can't get much, but you can print as much as you want, and as long as you put it all together. But from there on, like started seeing, hey, like I really started getting to bigger things, like smaller planes were like again the beginning, and then you start going bigger and bigger. And I was like, after that, I got a Creality CR10, which is a much larger print volume. It's almost pretty much almost twice the size.
Right.
And what I just did the same thing. I would just set it in print and then put a camera on it, and then just kind of hope for most of the beginnings, like, hey, I hope it doesn't fail in the middle, because I mean, the giant RC, the airplane it's over 200 hours of printing time. So it's pretty much you just leave it, and then each piece was at least it was like almost a day, like 24 hours printing each section. And it's just slow. It's just going one around and around. But you're like kind of hoping it was perfect by the time you will wake up or do something. Even though they do say you should never leave it running while you sleep. But I did set up a lot of things, fail safes for it. And I did have the filament sensors. I had it. I made sure that the model that I had was upgraded, so I can leave it, and it won't burn. And because that was a problem back when the 3D printing started, that they wouldn't have a temperature sensor that was accurate enough, and then your hot end would just burn and
Right.
then burn your whole house. You could.
So I
Um,
don't know how it is today, but if you're like, I would like to get into 3D and make my own planes, the trick is getting a good machine, but then you've got to learn the whatever spool of filament that you're using. You have
mhm.
to learn what the right temperature is. You don't want to be too cold or too hot. And then the other thing I was always playing with was the plate that the print lived on. I ultimately went with a mirror, and
Yep.
then I would spray it. I would clean it, and then I'd spray it with this certain Aquanet hairspray to get a
Mhm.
good stick. But man, those two things seem to be the big tricks: the temp and the base.
Yeah, the temperature definitely, because that's gonna dictate how pretty much how strong at the end of the work is gonna be, especially in planes, because you want to make it as light as possible. So you're literally playing with what you call as one perimeter line. So it's literally the thickness of just one line. But if you don't have them like very pretty much welded together each line, so it's not hot enough, they'll just come apart in the middle of your flight. So I figured, and I found the pretty much a couple of filaments that work best. I actually did do a collaboration with Wano, which was eSun. That was pretty cool. And their filament is very nice, and printing it at least at 205 degrees Celsius, which
Okay.
is not your normal. Usually you print like a 180, 190 or so. So just a little bit higher, so they actually melt a little more together. That has been pretty much a trick for it. And for the bed, I actually learned that using alcohol, rubbing alcohol before each print actually makes it stick a lot more and better than anything I've used. I know
Wow.
people that have gone as far as you can use glue sticks, you can use like tape over them, and like
Right.
people do a lot of stuff. But I've worked with, like, I found alcohol to just you just wipe it down before the print. You set it to print and it sticks. I don't know why, but it works perfectly.
That's a lot cleaner than all those other
Oh
solutions,
yeah, it
which
was
then you
definitely a game changer.
well, with that said, let's jump over and take a look at your YouTube channel. And so these are your videos. Now, I think the thing that we're really promoting on RC groups are your airplane videos.
Yes,
Is
correct.
there one here in this first lineup that you like the most that you want us to take a quick look at?
I mean, sure, we can use we can look at the first one, which is the crash, the 3D print, the giant. There it is. There it is. I mean, that was one of the biggest projects that my first actually big scale project. That model I did not design. That model is actually from Troy McMillan. He's done several different designs, and he definitely puts in the work for it, especially for 3D printing. It was a great design. There's a lot of things that I would change on it, and that's why I'm already working on new designs. And that's actually what got me into now designing my own planes. And the second video that you'll see there, which is it's pretty much a Cessna, a giant scale Cessna. That one I designed myself, and it's very interesting because not only do you have to, I knew nothing about designing and modeling, but not only do you have to learn how to design a plane, you also
3D.
have to learn how to design it to be able to 3D print it.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that you cannot do when you're 3D printing. It's like if you have too many overhangs or pieces that just cannot be printed because they have a top on it. And that was an interesting learning curve. But now that you keep that in mind, especially coming from printing first and then designing for it, now I just design straight through, and already in the back of my head, it's like, hey, this is not going to print so well. Let's try it this way. And as I keep doing it along.
Hey, let me ask you a giant question. What
Yeah.
kind of CA are you using on the 3D print?
It's actually this. I think it's the Starbond, the CA Starbond, just the regular one. And it was. I always use two different ones. It's either the very, very thin, and which is gonna help me get into the little cracks, and
Right.
then a thick one for the actual
To lock it.
seams. Yeah, but there it
I
is. It's
like it,
right there,
Philip.
the Starbond.
And then,
And
do you have how-to videos on your just the 3D aspect?
yeah, I haven't actually, on the how to design on 3D and stuff like that. I have not. I have thought about actually making them because I know there's a lot of people who's interested. But most of my videos are pretty much of how you build what I'm showing you.
Oh, gotcha.
But the design part, I haven't done it yet, but I definitely will look into it because I know there's a lot of people who are interested in it.
So I was looking this morning, and Jason Cole has done a feature on your 3D car.
Yeah, I just saw it too. Yeah.
And then, where is your Cessna we were talking about?
That is right there where it says RC Planes is that first, the white one, right? No, the a little bit lower, right there, right next to the car, right there. That one. That one I designed myself from scratch. And it took time. It wasn't the first version that ended up flying. To be honest, right now it's an ongoing project. I'm still working on it, and I'm improving little parts for it. And the whole idea of this one was, hey, like, first, let's see if I can design a plane my own. Second, can I print it and will it fly? And third, I started getting to a lot of scale. So I was like, I couldn't find a Cessna to print
Okay.
that it was scaled wise, and I was like, I'm gonna go for this, and it
So
turned out very well.
it has
I was
flaps.
impressed. Yeah, it had full flaps. That was another one. I keep finding models that don't have flaps, and it's like, come on, how do you not have flaps? It's very important. So this one's got full flaps. It does not have retractable bead gear, just as the actual model, the actual plane. But everything else is just like the actual plane, and it flew perfectly, man. I was so surprised. But that's an almost 8-pound plane, and
Wow, that is a heavy
yeah,
plane.
and I was not expecting it of how well it flew. At the beginning, I was tweaking and testing it. That was the first flight ever for that plane. I hadn't even tried it, and I was just go for it. But once I tweaked it, I was good, and it flew nicely, man.
And then for an 8-pound plane, how is the landing gear situated in there to hold up and take all that weight?
That's definitely a big point on that plane when I landed. You could see that the front gear just went out on it. So I went back and I redesigned everything again. I'm still figuring out how to put because again, I don't want to go and buy landing gear. I want to make my own landing gear. So I'm trying to figure out how to do better shocks, put springs on it, and how to make it more flexible. Because again, 3D printing is not well. There is flexible filament, but this is just straight up PLA. and it's not flexible. It's very brittle. So right there,
Right.
you can see the front end is on the back, the landing gear. Because as soon as it touches, it doesn't want to flex. It wants to break off.
That's it. Right.
So I've been playing with them, and what I've gotten to find is literally if you put a spring on it, you're 100 times better off.
Yeah.
And then I've on the design itself, I actually made supports inside of where the landing gear goes. Like that, there's a bar that supports it now, and it just works perfect. But yeah, it's a heavy plane, and it's not. You would think it's not because it's 3D printed or hey, like it doesn't look that bad, but it truly is a heavy plane.
So I don't know why airliners are so cool,
Oh, they're awesome.
but they are.
Everybody
So,
loves the airliners.
so
It
we
is
looked at
awesome.
some of this build.
Yep.
How long did it take you to like build this thing? Because it looks like it would take forever.
Yeah, it's 200 hours of printing, but the build itself is actually easy because all you're doing is it's literally tubes that are this tall, and you're just joining them together. Like, and it's just literally one round
Okay.
of glue, put it together, another round of glue, put it together. You just need the space. But pretty much within a weekend, you can actually build it real quick. Like
And if you
there isn't too much behind it. It really is just straightforward. Each piece just goes one on top of the other, and it's done.
and have you put lights in these things? I bet it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this model, the white one, I did not put lights on. The yellow one that I reprinted because after this was a complete great failure. I built it. I took pictures of it. I took video. This was the first maiden flight of that model, and man, if you ask me, I think it was two tail heavy, and you're gonna see it right now. It doesn't fly for more than 20 seconds, and it's a complete crash. And it was interesting because it was the first time that I had an audience. Like there was people at the park flying as well, and they all stopped. They're like, "Hey, we want to watch you." And it literally, it just here comes. It takes off. It takes off nicely.
Who's
It
screaming in
just
the background?
that was the people that were there.
Yeah.
It just
And
goes
then
up
that's that.
vertical and just straight down
Good
crashes.
thunk.
And it was gone, man. Like it was in 1,000 pieces. Because PLA is not like foam. Like foam will just break into kind of chunks. The
Right.
PLA since it's brittle, it shatters. Like
Like
shatters into
glass.
millions. Yeah, like glass. And there you go. You're gonna see. There it is.
Wow.
That's it. There goes over 200 hours of printing. But I think it was a bit too tail heavy at the beginning because I was playing with the CG. I was trying to figure out, and I put the batteries forward as the CG said it was, but I was stubborn. I was like, "This is way too much weight on the front. Like it will barely even turn the wheel.
Right.
This can't be right." So I moved it back, and that was my first mistake.
Ah.
So as soon as I was pulled because I remember when it was going up, I was pulling it down, and it just wouldn't go. It wouldn't do anything. And
Right.
then once it started dipping to the side, I knew it was already gone. But then once I turned it back down, I was pulling again, and it was starting to move, but there wasn't enough elevator authority, and it was just going straight down, man. And that's what I learned. And then on the next one, when I tried it again, which is the yellow one, it it flew
Oh,
perfect except for the landing because it doesn't have flaps, man. And that's the first thing I learned. I was like, these models need flaps because
right.
you're
We got to
grabbing a
slow it
heavy
down.
airplane. You got to slow it down somehow. But then this one, it was like I already knew how to build it. This is much quick. Like
Yeah, you're moving really fast.
yeah, everything was just straight through. It was a breeze. I built it. This was probably within like 2 days. I was done. I was like, I want to get this thing flying. And yeah, with this one, I learned that a lot of things, and especially this one, I included lights that I don't show all the way till the end, which was there you
Oh,
go.
there it is. Yeah.
And after this one, I was like, I already had the light kit. I was like, I might as well put it in. It just looks awesome.
Yeah, those are hot.
Yeah, there. And from there on, I put lights on all my planes. Like that
Is
was
this
my
guy
deciding
still
factor.
alive?
Yes, that guy is still alive. It's in a storage because it's big, man. It's 6 feet by like 7 feet, pretty much.
Oh, let me get the takeoff.
Um, Yeah, there he goes. And
Ooh, that is a long run out.
oh yeah, it was long. I don't know why it was so long. but the first one flew like much easier. I guess because the CG was right. On the other one is
Right. It
far
just wanted to go
behind.
up, right?
It just wanted to go up, yeah. But yeah, and it flew so fast, man. And that was something that I was impressed. I was like, I didn't have too much hopes for a 3D printed jet, pretty much, because that's what it is, an airliner. But it flew so fast and so well. Um,
Do we need to throw some credit out to your drone pilot?
oh yeah, sure. My drone pilot, he is Paulo. That's great. He's been my friend forever. He's my friend forever, man. And since we were very young, we actually fly drones together. Now we're into drone and
Nice.
FPVs.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause that's how the hobby goes. You start with something, then you get into all of them.
Sure.
But
Everything evolves into something else.
oh yeah, and we fly right there too, and we've drawn some footage for everybody that flies as well. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool community, and that's something I learned and I love about it. The RC community. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old to 99 or 100
Yep.
plus. It's just awesome, man. It's very welcoming. But yeah, you can see there that plane flew for a very long time, and it was great. And it felt so nice, and it actually feels light. And that plane, it was actually about, I think it was like 4 or 5 pounds,
Yeah.
but it just flies like it doesn't even weigh anything.
That's how you want it. And so, where do you get
Yep.
most of your servos and motors and all that stuff from?
Um, that's all pretty much I get them from Amazon. I haven't found like yet that it's like, hey, I'm gonna stick with this guy's yet.
Right.
But ooh, yeah, that was rough plenty on that one. But it survived actually after that. Yeah, that was the door for the fuselage that flew out. Um,
It's like ejection.
yeah,
It's like poof,
yeah,
like it's
it's
supposed to
literally like
fly.
ejection. It just flies right out. But that one survived, and it flies. It still flies to this day, and that's another thing that I like about the PLA. Well, the 3D printing in general. If anything breaks, it's just a
Right.
couple hours into the printing time again, and you just put it right on. You're good to go, and it looks like brand new. Like nothing ever even happened. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, but pretty much everything from there, from those planes I've gotten, is directly from Amazon, and it's nothing fancy, which has been, I mean, till this day, I've not had a tiny 9 gram servo metal geared to fail on me that I would say, hey, okay, I'm gonna stop doing this yet. But I mean, yeah, for the bigger planes, if it was something that I would buy or put like, let's say if I'm building out of wood or if carbon fiber, then yeah, I'll absolutely go look for better servos. But 3D
Right.
printed plane, man, that
Right.
literally a spool of plastic is $20, and that's what I'll use for the entire plane. Yeah, I'm good.
Well, let's go to the homepage real quick. So the YouTube channel is Alejandro
Yep.
Alcantara, and you will also be able to find this listing in our vendor section. You can go to the bottom of any page in RC Groups, and there's a list of everyone that advertises. So he's there, but you can also see the banners of the planes we just watched flashing around RC Groups as we speak. And be sure and visit and hit subscribe and do and all the buttons that you need to be pushing. Alejandro, is there anything left that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I've actually a big thanks to you and for RC groups. It's such a great community, and definitely appreciate the support from everybody. It's unbelievable, actually.
All right, everybody. I want to thank you too, everyone who watches our videos and likes and shares and all those things. This is Jim Graham with RC Groups. We're talking to Alejandro Alcantara, and it's 3D, it's printing, it's RC, it's all the fun stuff. So be sure and go check it out. Thanks so much for taking time to talk to us.
No, thank you, thank you.